The shower was running upstairs, and I heard a woman's laugh through the door. I shoved the bathroom door open with a bang, and a wall of steam hit my face. In the foggy mirror and the shattered silence, two figures turned toward me. My husband stood naked under the cascade of water, and pressed against him was a dark-haired woman who should not have been there. For a split second, none of us moved. Water drummed against tile. My own heartbeat roared in my ears. "What the hell?" Michael started, his eyes wide in mouth agape, but I was already lunging forward. The towel bar dug into my hip as I ripped the shower curtain aside. Hot water sprayed my arms and clothes, but I barely felt it. The woman screamed, scrambling to cover herself, slipping on the wet porcelain as she tried to hide behind my husband. Michael raised his hands as if to block me out, stammering something, but I didn't care. There was a stranger in my shower. A stranger with her hands on my husband. Without thinking, I grabbed the woman by her slick wet arm. "Get out," I snarled, voice echoing off the tile. I yanked her with all my strength, harder than I realized I could. Her feet slid out from under her and she crashed against the wall with a yelp. "Claire, stop," Michael shouted, stepping out of the shower towards me. He moved to put himself between us, water streaming off his body onto the floor. The woman was cowering now in the corner of the tub, half wrapped in the fallen shower curtain. I was shaking, every muscle locked with adrenaline. My fist was already in the air before I knew what I was doing. I swung. 6 hours earlier, I was humming softly to myself as I turned the key in my front door. My arms were full of grocery bags, and a bottle of Michael's favorite scotch balanced precariously on top. I had decided to surprise my husband by coming home 2 days early from my business trip. The meetings in Seattle had wrapped up ahead of schedule, and I'd caught the first flight back that morning. I couldn't wait to see the look on his face. Stepping into the foyer, I kicked off my heels and gently set the bags down. "Honey, I'm home," I called out, sing-song, already grinning. The house was quiet. No answer. Which wasn't too unusual. It was only about 2 p.m. on Wednesday, and I expected he might be running errands or out for a jog. The plan was to have everything set up for a romantic dinner by the time he returned. As I walked into the kitchen, the faint scent of vanilla and cleaning solution greeted me. Our housekeeper had been by that morning. Sunlight slanted through the window above the sink. Everything was neat and tidy. I placed the bouquet of white roses I'd picked up into a vase and filled it with water. They were his favorite flowers. I was still smiling as I arranged the blooms. 18 years of marriage, and I was still excited to surprise him. It occurred to me he might not even be home until later, but I checked the garage and saw his car parked inside. Strange, I thought, he must be around here somewhere if his car's here. Then I noticed it, a second car in the driveway that I didn't recognize. A sleek red sedan, gleaming in the midday sun. I peered out the kitchen window frowning. Maybe it belonged to a neighbor or a friend of his. But we lived at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac. Visitors' cars usually park on the street, not in the drive. The sight of that unfamiliar car sent a tiny prickle of unease through me. I walked back to the foyer and paused at the bottom of the stairs. Above me, I could faintly make out a noise, a muffled thump. I listened harder. The central air hummed quietly, but under it, I caught something else. A voice. My heart ticked up a beat. "Michael," I called, voice tentative. Still no answer. I took the stairs one at a time, carefully stepping over the one that always creaked. On the landing, I hesitated. The door to our bedroom was half open. Beyond it, I heard another laugh, light, feminine, and definitely not mine. My stomach clenched so hard it hurt. Quietly, I moved toward the bedroom doorway. Through the crack, I saw that the ensuite bathroom door was ajar, and steam drifted out into the bedroom. The shower was running, and underneath the rush of water, I heard them clearly now. Michael's low murmur, then a woman's playful giggle bouncing off the tiled walls. I froze. For a moment, I just stood there, gripping the doorframe to steady myself. My mind tried to reject what I was hearing. It had to be a misunderstanding, right? Maybe one of Michael's buddies had come over with his girlfriend and they... No. In my bathroom? That made no sense. Another burst of muffled laughter shattered any illusions I had left. A bright, delighted laugh I hadn't heard in years. Certainly never from Michael. Not with me. I realized I was trembling. My pulse throbbed in my throat as I pushed the door open and stepped into our bedroom. The duvet on our bed was rumpled, half tossed to the floor. On the nightstand, I saw an empty wine bottle tipped on its side and 2 glasses, one with a lipstick stain on the rim. On top of my pillow, of all places, a lacy black bra lay abandoned. The air smelled like soap and sex. I walked forward in a daze. Through the open bathroom door, I could see 2 silhouettes behind the frosted glass of the shower enclosure, my husband's tall form and a shorter figure pressed up against him. My vision tunneled, a hot flush roaring through my body. This was actually happening. I don't remember making a conscious decision to confront them. One moment I was rooted to the carpet, and the next I was moving, fueled by some instinctual rage and hurt I didn't even know I had in me. "What the hell?" I shouted, storming into the bathroom. Through the steam, Michael's head jerked toward me in shock. The woman shrieked, and in her panic she slipped while trying to cover herself. The curtain swayed, giving me flashes of wet skin and guilty faces. My heart was pounding so violently I thought I might faint, but I barreled forward, yanking the shower door open. "Claire?" Michael shouted, scrambling to shield the woman behind him. Water sprayed across the tile and onto my blouse. My gaze snapped from my husband to the stranger. She looked in her early 30s, with long dark hair slicked down her back. Her eyes were huge and terrified. She clutched Michael's arm, trying to hide her body behind his, as if I was the intruder here. I realized I still held one of the glass wine bottles from the nightstand in my right hand. I didn't even recall picking it up. I must have grabbed it without thinking when I saw the bra. My fingers were clenched around its neck, so tightly they ached. "Get out," I growled at the woman. I barely recognized my own voice. I was shaking, soaked, and furious. "Get out of my house." "Hey, can we explain?" the woman stammered, her voice high with alarm. Something snapped. The sound of her voice, pleading, scared, should maybe have given me pause, but it only made it worse. She was afraid of me? She had invaded my home, broken my life, and now she was afraid of me? I saw red. Before I knew it, I had dropped the bottle and grabbed her by her wet hair with my free hand. I wrenched her out from behind Michael with a strength I didn't know I possessed. She yelped, slipping on the wet floor tiles as I dragged her, naked and dripping, out of the shower. "Claire, stop it!" Michael shouted again, his voice cracking. He stepped forward as if to pry my hands off her, but I whipped around, eyes blazing. "Don't you touch me!" I roared at him, my voice echoing in the small bathroom. I could feel hot tears stinging my eyes, but I refused to cry. Not now. My entire world had just been blown apart, and he was going to explain. Michael backed up a step, palms out. Okay, just, let's talk." The woman squirmed in my grasp, trying to break free. I had one fist tangled in her hair and another holding her shoulder. She was sobbing now, panicked. I shoved her hard toward the open doorway. She slipped and crashed into the bathroom wall with a thud, knocking a hanging towel to the floor. A smear of blood streaked the white paint where her lip or nose hit the wall. She crumpled to the tile, covering her face and wailing. I stared at the blood for a second, stunned at what I had done. "Oh my God." Michael breathed. He grabbed a towel and pushed past me to crouch beside the woman. He wrapped it around her shaking body. Over his shoulder, he glared at me with a mix of fury and disbelief I had never seen from him. "Claire, what is wrong with you?" he barked. "What's wrong with me?" I repeated, my voice eerily calm even as I trembled. My eyes darted between my husband and the injured stranger on our bathroom floor. The absurdity of his question made something in my brain crackle. "What's wrong with me, Michael? You're asking me that." He didn't answer. He was helping the woman to her feet, one arm protectively around her as she sobbed into the towel. Protecting her. In our home. In front of me. I could taste something bitter and metallic in my mouth. My own blood, from biting the inside of my cheek without realizing. I stepped back, blocking the doorway, shaking from head to toe. If I didn't move, maybe they wouldn't escape. Maybe I could keep this moment suspended until it made sense. "Claire, move," Michael ordered. His voice had turned cold and steady in that authoritative way I'd heard him use in business meetings, never on me. "Let her go. We're leaving." He guided the woman forward. She was clutching the towel to her chest with one hand, the other hand pressed to her bleeding nose or lip. Her eyes avoided mine as if I were some monster. My heart shattered at the sight. I felt like I was outside my body, watching some other woman's life fall apart. But it was my life. And my own husband was looking at me with something close to hatred. I stepped aside numbly. They hurried out, Michael half carrying her down the hall toward the stairs. Water from his body left a dripping trail on the hardwood. I followed a few paces behind, disbelieving. Was he leaving with her? At the top of the stairs, he paused and looked back at me. I will never forget that look. His jaw was set, eyes blazing. "You've lost your mind," he said, voice low and seething. "I can't be around you when you're like this." "Michael," I started, my voice cracking, but he was already moving down the steps carefully with the woman in his arms. I stood at the railing, clutching it for support as I watched my husband and the stranger hurry through the foyer. The front door opened, and then they were gone into the bright afternoon, leaving the door yawning wide. Down the street, a dog barked. The sound snapped me out of my trance. I ran down the stairs 2 at a time and out onto the porch. I could see the red sedan still parked in our drive. Michael had opened the passenger door for the woman, and she got in, still wrapped in our towel. He stalked around to the driver's side. "Don't you dare take my car," I screamed from the porch, voice cracking. I didn't even have shoes on. I must have looked insane, hair damp and wild, clothes plastered to me with cooling shower water. Michael ignored me, slamming his door. The engine started. I took one step off the porch, the pavement rough under my bare foot. For a crazy second, I considered running after them, jumping on the hood, anything to stop this from being real. But I didn't. I just stood there as my husband reversed out of the driveway and sped off, tires squealing. I was left alone with an open front door, a shattered life, and a lawn full of white rose petals swirling in the breeze from the bouquet I'd dropped. The police came to my office 2 days later and arrested me on the spot. I was handcuffed and led out in front of all my colleagues, mortified. That night, I sat awake in a jail cell, the longest night of my life. The next morning, my attorney bailed me out for $2,500. He was a friend of my brother's, a sharp-faced man named Alan, who had a perpetually furrowed brow. Alan gave me a once-over as I stepped out of the holding cell and offered me his suit jacket to cover the wrinkled blouse I'd slept in. Mortified and grateful, I draped it around my shoulders. We barely spoke until we were outside in the cool Saturday morning air. I squinted at the daylight, feeling like a mole emerging from darkness. On the courthouse steps, Alan finally turned to me. All right, he sighed. Let's get you up to speed. They've charged you with third-degree assault, which is a gross misdemeanor. Worst case, you're looking at a year in county jail and a hefty fine if this goes to trial. But let's not panic. No priors, we can likely get it knocked down to disorderly conduct or something. Probation, anger management classes at most. I nodded numbly. Anger management classes. The idea that I needed therapy for anger made my gut twist, but I held my tongue. Also, he added carefully, your husband filed a temporary restraining order against you yesterday. My head snapped up. He what? On what grounds? Alan pursed his lips. He claimed you have a history of controlling and violent behavior, and that he fears for his safety. The judge granted a 2-week temporary order effective immediately. You're not allowed within 100 yards of him or your home. I actually laughed at the absurdity, a choked, bitter sound. He's kicked me out of my own house? The house I inherited. Alan held up a pacifying hand. I know. It's outrageous. But the hearing to make it permanent is in 2 weeks, and we'll fight it hard. In the meantime, yes, you have to stay away from the house. If he's staying there, you can't be there. Violate the order and you're right back in jail, which would hurt your case. I pressed my palms against my temples, a scream of frustration rising in my throat. I swallowed it down. Where am I supposed to go? You have family or friends nearby? Alan asked. Family. My mind immediately went to Marcus. My son was due back from college that weekend. I'd hoped to see him. Maybe I could stay with him? But no, of course Marcus would stay at the house with his father now. I had nowhere else. My parents were gone, and my only sibling lived 2 states away. I'll find a hotel, I muttered. Alan nodded. Send me the bills. We'll petition for compensation later if needed, since it's your marital home. Look, Claire, this TRO is likely a tactical move for the divorce that's coming. He hasn't filed yet, but I expect he will any day now. You found him cheating, and you reacted. He's going to use that against you, make himself out to be the victim. We just have to weather these next couple weeks until the hearing. Keep your head down, no contact with him unless absolutely necessary. No contact. I bit my tongue against the surge of anger and hurt. He won't answer my calls anyway, I said quietly. Alan gave me a sympathetic half-smile. Focus on your defense for now. Write down everything you remember about that day, in as much detail as possible. And if you have anything that could show a pattern of his dishonesty or infidelity, start gathering it. We might need leverage for the divorce battle ahead. I nodded, though my mind was already drifting. Divorce. My throat tightened, and I stared out at the parking lot full of cars gleaming in the sun. Everything still felt surreal, but the ache in my chest was very real. I checked into a hotel with nothing but my purse and the clothes on my back. The suitcase from my trip was still in my car at the office. Once in the room, I collapsed on the bed and lay there for a long time, staring at the ceiling. In the span of 3 days, I'd gone from a content wife excited to surprise her husband to a homeless, accused criminal. By afternoon, I forced myself into motion. I took a scalding shower that did little to wash the humiliation off me, then headed to a discount store down the road for basics. I wandered the aisles in a daze, tossing underwear, jeans, a couple shirts, and toiletries into my cart. The mundane act of shopping at least kept me from spiraling. That evening, alone in the hotel room, I finally steeled myself to do the thing I dreaded most, call my son. I had texted Marcus on Wednesday after everything happened, asking him to call me. No response. I texted again after I got out on bail, telling him I needed to talk to him. Still nothing. It wasn't like him. Marcus always responded, even if just a quick, can't talk now. He was 19 in his 2nd year of college, but we'd been close. Or so I'd thought. With a shaking hand, I found his number and hit dial. It rang 4 times before he picked up. Hello. His voice was wary, unfamiliar. Marcus, honey, I began trying to keep my voice steady. How are you? I miss you. There was a pause, then a sigh. Mom. I can't talk long. He sounded tired. Distant. My heart sank. I just wanted to hear your voice. Did you get my messages? I'm not at the house right now. There's been a misunderstanding. I faltered. I didn't even know where to begin. What had Michael told him? Mom, I know what happened, he said, anger edging into his tone. Dad told me everything. You attacked Vanessa. You nearly killed her. My mouth fell open. That is not true. She had a bloody nose. Maybe a busted lip at worst. She slipped and, Marcus, she was sleeping with your father in our house. I walked in on them. I know what she was doing, he cut me off sharply. And I know that doesn't give you the right to assault her. Jesus, Mom. I never thought you'd be capable of something like that. I gripped the phone until my knuckles ached. I lost my temper. I'm not proud of it. But Marcus, your father was cheating on me. In our house. He was silent a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was cold. That's between you and Dad. But what you did, you crossed a line. I saw the police report, Mom. They took photos of her injuries. She could have had a concussion. What if you had killed her? A trembling started in my hands that I couldn't stop. Are you serious? I whispered. Your father cheats on me and I'm the monster? You beat up a defenseless woman half your size, he snapped. This isn't some movie, Mom. You can't just go around hitting people. Defenseless. Half my size. The words hung in the air. Vanessa's terrified face flashed in my mind. I pressed a palm to my forehead, feeling the sting of tears. She was not defenseless. She was sleeping with my husband, I said, each word slow and heavy. Maybe I shouldn't have hit her. But I think any person might snap if they walked in on what I did. Well, you should have walked away, he retorted. You should have been the bigger person. Called the cops, something. Now everything's messed up. A bitter laugh escaped me. Yes, it sure is. In case you didn't realize, Marcus, your dad has taken out a restraining order on me. I'm barred from my own home. I spent a night in jail. I'm in a hotel, paying through the nose, while he and that woman. I stopped myself. I was veering dangerously close to sounding hysterical. I took a shaky breath. Listen, there's a court hearing in 2 weeks about the restraining order. I could really use your support. Will you come? He exhaled, annoyed. Mom, I can't. Dad needs me. I'm staying with him to make sure he's okay. It felt like he'd punched me. Staying with him? At the house. Yes. I came home this weekend to see him. He's pretty shaken up. And he needs someone to help around the house since you're not there. I stared at the generic painting on the hotel wall, tongue thick. I see. So you're taking care of him. Because I'm such a danger. I didn't say that, Marcus muttered. But Mom, honestly, you need help. Counseling, anger management, something. This isn't normal. I closed my eyes. My own son's voice brimmed with reproach and pity. I couldn't stand it. Okay, I whispered. If that's how you feel, I won't force you. Take care of your father then. I have to go, he said stiffly. Just, please don't call me right now. I'll reach out when you're getting some help or something. Bye. The line went dead. I lowered the phone slowly. My hand was trembling so violently I nearly dropped it. I wanted to scream, or throw it, or possibly both. Instead, I sat very still on the edge of the bed and let the tears come, hot and heavy. I cried until I ran out of tears, and then I just stared at the wall in numb silence for a very long time. The 2 weeks until the court hearing crawled by. I filled my days by returning to work and pretending everything was fine. My boss was understanding, to a point. He reassigned my client meetings until things settled down. I could feel the wary glances in the office. 12 years at the company with a spotless record, and now I was the woman who got arrested at work. Nights in the hotel were the worst. Every creak of the building, every drunk voice in the hallway put me on edge. I jumped whenever my phone buzzed, hoping it was Marcus coming to his senses. It never was. He hadn't spoken to me since that painful call. Once I worked up the courage to text him a simple, I love you. I'm here if you need me. He didn't respond. Meanwhile, Alan helped me gather evidence for the hearing. Michael's attorney was doubling down on painting me as erratic and violent to make the restraining order permanent and gain leverage in the divorce. But we had something on our side, hard proof of Michael's betrayal. I spent hours digging through our shared digital life. Michael wasn't exactly a criminal mastermind. I found months' worth of photos in his cloud backups, selfies of him and Vanessa in hotel rooms, arms around each other in different cities. There were call logs and text histories too, hundreds of messages between his phone and a contact labeled V. I didn't read them, but I saved everything to a flash drive for Alan, who paired it with what he subpoenaed from our financial records. What he found made me ill. In the 8 months of his affair, Michael had spent upwards of $15,000 on Vanessa. Hotels, fancy dinners, weekend trips, jewelry. All paid for from our joint accounts. Money meant for our family, for our son's tuition. Gone. Finally, the day of the hearing arrived. I entered the courtroom feeling like I might throw up, but I forced my chin up and steadied myself. Michael sat across the aisle with his lawyer, a stern-faced woman in a navy suit. He didn't look at me. Vanessa wasn't there. She didn't need to be, since this was about whether I posed a threat to him. But Marcus was there. To my heartbreak, my son sat directly behind his father. When I caught his eye, he quickly looked away. Michael's lawyer argued that the temporary restraining order should be extended, painting me as a volatile, controlling spouse with a terrifying temper. It was surreal and infuriating to hear such lies. According to her, I had isolated Michael from friends and family, monitored his communications, and ruled the household with fear. I barely recognized the person she described. Michael stared at the table while she spoke, as if ashamed. Yet he didn't refute a word of it. Then they called Marcus. I gripped the edge of our table as my son swore to tell the truth and took the stand. With a calm that cut me to the core, he echoed the lies. He claimed he'd grown up in fear of my anger. That I controlled every family decision and snooped through his messages. That I yelled over little things, making home a tense place. Each word was like a knife twisting in my gut. Yes, I'd set rules for him as a teenager, like any responsible parent. Yes, I often took charge of finances or plans, because Michael always shrugged and said, "Whatever you decide, honey." And I could count on one hand the times I'd ever truly raised my voice at either of them. Strict, maybe. But abusive? Never. My lawyer took a gentle approach on cross-examination. Still, the cracks in Marcus's story quickly showed. He couldn't give a single example of me harming either of them. Under Alan's mild questioning, Marcus even had to admit I'd never once hit or physically hurt him or his father. It undermined everything. The judge scribbled notes, expression neutral. But I sensed skepticism in her questions for Michael's side. My heart fluttered hopefully for the first time in weeks. When Alan presented our evidence, the truth finally cut through the charade. Exhibit after exhibit laid bare Michael's secret life. Credit card statements for resorts and five-star dinners. Airline tickets and hotel bookings for trips he'd claimed were for work. The numbers spoke volumes. Thousands of dollars spent on luxury hotels, fine dining, and jewelry, all timed perfectly with phone records of his calls to Vanessa. Michael's attorney objected that this was irrelevant, but the judge allowed it. Context, she said pointedly. And context was everything. It showed why a normally even-tempered woman might snap once in her life. It showed who the real betrayer was. In the end, the judge dismissed the restraining order. While she reprimanded me for taking the law into my own hands, she noted that one outburst didn't prove I was a danger to Michael. No evidence of prior violence. No basis to extend the order. I was free to return to my home. I should have felt triumphant, but walking out of that courtroom I just felt hollow. Yes, I had my house back, but it didn't feel like home anymore. Not with my family broken. And not with what Marcus had done. Outside in the marble hallway, I found my son waiting by the elevators with Michael and my sister-in-law. I walked up to them, heels clicking on the polished floor. They fell silent. Michael wouldn't meet my eyes. Fine. I wasn't there for him. Marcus, I said quietly. He stared at the ground. I have nothing to say to you, he muttered. My throat constricted. Then just listen. I don't know why you lied in there. His eyes flashed up. I didn't lie. That's how I remember things. You were always in control, Mom. Everything had to be your way. Because your father abdicated responsibility time and again, I snapped, unable to help myself. Michael's head jerked up at that, eyes narrowing. But I barreled on, voice trembling. I did what I had to keep our family running. If that felt like control to you, I'm sorry. But I will not apologize for being a parent when I needed to be. Marcus scoffed. You sound just like you did when I was a kid, justifying everything by saying it was for my own good or for the family. Guess what? That's what controlling people always say. It felt like he'd slapped me. I opened my mouth, but no words came. Over Marcus's shoulder, I saw Michael watching with a faint, twisted smirk. He was enjoying this. Anger and anguish warred inside me. I swallowed hard and looked at my son. I'm sorry you see it that way, I managed. But you're wrong. And what you did in there, my voice cracked, you know that was wrong, don't you? Marcus flushed. I told the truth, my truth. Your truth nearly cost me everything, I said raw. If the judge had believed you, I could have lost my home. My freedom. You might as well have put a knife in my back. His face contorted. I was trying to help Dad. You attacked someone, Mom. I thought I was doing the right thing. But he didn't sound so sure now. I shook my head slowly. If you think perjury is the right thing, I don't know what to tell you. My sister-in-law cleared her throat delicately. Maybe this isn't the place. She murmured, eyeing the people passing by. She was right. We were making a scene. I blinked back hot tears and straightened. I'm going home, I said softly. Marcus, if you need me, you know where I'll be. He didn't respond. He wouldn't even look at me. As I turned to leave, Michael muttered under his breath. Hope you're happy. You traumatized our son today. I paused, blood pounding in my ears. Without turning, I replied, I'm not the one who taught him how to betray his family. Then I walked away, heels clicking a sharp staccato down the hall. The divorce took nearly a year to finalize. It ended far better for me than I dared hope. The judge saw through Michael's lies. I kept the house and most of our assets. He was left with almost nothing, and no alimony. Adultery has its consequences. As the court adjourned on the final day, Michael snapped. He surged to his feet and shouted, This isn't fair. She's leaving me with nothing. She has our house, I have nowhere to go. The bailiff stepped forward with a warning, and Michael fell silent, breathing hard. I glanced over and caught Marcus's face in the gallery, stricken, as if I were the villain ruining his father's life. I left quickly, hoping to avoid another confrontation. But Marcus chased me into the courthouse parking lot. Mom, he called. I stopped by my car and turned. He jogged up, face flushed with anger. How could you? He spat. You destroyed him. I felt a weary sense of déjà vu. I destroyed him? I echoed. Marcus, your father destroyed himself. You could have just given him the house or some money or something, he raged. He has nowhere to live now. All his contributions, 18 years, and you get everything? What kind of person does that to someone they loved? My temper, frayed and fragile, finally snapped. The kind of person who was betrayed, lied to, and then dragged through hell, I said, voice shaking. He made his bed, and now he can lie in it. Adultery has consequences. Maybe you're old enough to understand that. He flinched, then drew himself up. A real woman would still be decent enough to help her ex-husband land on his feet. You didn't have to humiliate him like that. I let out a short, sharp laugh. A real woman? How about a real man doesn't cheat on his wife and then try to take her home? And a real son doesn't lie in court to back up that man's lies. Marcus went pale. I was protecting my family, he hissed. No, I said quietly. You were protecting him. And throwing me away in the process. My eyes burned, but I refused to cry. Your father can stay with his sister or a friend or in a cardboard box for all I care. I don't owe him a damn thing. And after what you did, I sure as hell don't owe you either. He stared at me, uncomprehending. What do you mean? I took a long, shaky breath. I mean, I'm done paying for your college, Marcus. Your rent, your car, your tuition. Consider it all on you now. If you choose to side with him, you'd best ask him to fund your life. For a moment, the only sound was a breeze in the trees overhead. Marcus's mouth opened, then shut. You can't be serious. He finally choked out. Dead serious, I replied. My heart hurt to say it, but my resolve didn't waver. Actions have consequences. You aligned yourself with him and tried to ruin me. You don't get to enjoy my support after that. He suddenly looked like a little boy again, about to cry, face crumpling. I can't afford school without you. I'll have to drop out. That's your choice now, I said. Maybe you can transfer somewhere cheaper. Take out loans, get a job. Plenty of people do. You're an adult. Figure it out. Please, he whispered, tears spilling. Don't do this, Mom. Everything in me wanted to yank him into my arms and wipe those tears away like I used to. But I steeled myself. Maybe this will teach you that choices have consequences. Before he could reply, another voice cut in. Michael, limping across the lot toward us. Claire, stop, he barked. You're punishing him because of me. If you want to be mad at me, but leave our son out of it. I turned to face my ex-husband. He looked older, beaten down, but seeing him only fueled my anger. This is between me and our son, I said coldly. And frankly, you don't get to tell me what to do ever again. He stepped closer, jabbing a finger at me. He lied to help his mother, and you're going to ruin his future for that? You've become heartless. I bristled. He lied under oath to help a liar. Forgive me if I don't feel particularly charitable about that. My voice hardened as I met Michael's eyes. Marcus made the decision to betray me. Now he lives with it. And you, Michael, you made the decision to betray me, and look where it got you. How's that working out? Michael's face twisted with rage and something like despair. You think you won, he spat. You're going to end up alone, Claire. You've driven everyone away. Enjoy your empty damn house. His words hit a deeply buried nerve. But I refused to show it. I mustered a thin smile. I will actually. Peace at last. Michael shook his head and slung an arm around our son's shoulders. Come on, son. We don't need anything from her. Marcus gave me one last, devastated look. I stood rigid, eyes cold, until they turned and walked away, my ex-husband hobbling slightly, my son wiping tears off his cheeks. I allowed myself a few silent sobs then, shoulders shaking in the quiet parking lot. But I told myself it was better this way. They had each other. I had myself. In the following months, I slowly adjusted to living alone. I completed my court-ordered classes, kept busy at work, and found small comforts in a quiet daily routine. I thought about Marcus often. Did he stay in school? Was he taking care of himself? Part of me wanted to check in, but I resisted. The silence between us had grown too long and heavy to break easily, and he hadn't reached out to me either. Stubbornness, perhaps, ran in the family. Nearly 2 years passed with no contact. I eventually learned through relatives that Marcus had married his college girlfriend, Emma, without even telling me. Less than a year later, history repeated itself. Marcus was caught cheating on Emma with an older married woman he'd met through Michael's new job. Emma threw him out and filed for divorce immediately. Not long after, she even contacted me to apologize for believing the lies they'd told about me. Having gone through her own betrayal, she said she finally understood what I had felt. Eventually, Marcus called me in tears, begging for money. When I asked if he was ready to apologize for lying about me in court, he could only offer excuses about protecting his dad. I hung up. Michael tried next, pleading for me to help for the sake of family. I laughed at the irony and refused. Even when Marcus finally said I'm sorry in a later message, it was followed by justifications. That wasn't a real apology, and I told him as much. I cut off contact with both of them. They were adults who had made their choices, just as I had made mine. I'd spent too many years giving everything I had to people who tossed me aside the moment it suited them. I wasn't going to give any more. 2 years ago, my life imploded in a single afternoon. I lost my husband, my son, my whole world, or so I thought. But I survived. I rebuilt. And standing here now in the golden quiet of the house I fought to keep, I finally feel at peace. Late-day sun streams through the kitchen window as I brew a single cup of coffee. I curl up on the sofa by myself, legs tucked under a blanket, and savor the evening silence. No drama, no tension, no eggshells to tiptoe over. In the stillness, I realize that this quiet, the very thing I used to fear, has become something precious. It's freedom. It's peace. It's mine.